when the weather changes, that's why. It's also why, Tim, you follow sports like I do. A lot of times when athletes get injured, what do they tell them not to go on an airplane, right? Because let's say you can't travel back with the team because that injury could be affected by the pressure change. So this happens in the atmosphere, and so it's something we're definitely going to watch for those that are sensitive. It's always good. People, when I post that, Tim, it feels like everybody who has that issue knows immediately what I'm talking about, and they're glad that they have a reason for it because they always thought it, but it's like, yeah, it's a pressure change.
Yeah, and probably the worst times of year would be spring, fall, and to some extent winter. Probably less so in the summertime because, boy, if there's a constant season in the Carolinas, it's summer. The others all have some amounts of change, especially the fall and the springtime. But even in the winter, we get some crazy weather changes. The summer can be pretty constant and pretty monotonous. And for your joints, it might be a better thing. It's warm, number one, but there's also not as much changing weather either.
Yeah, so real quickly, we're almost out of time. We'll talk about this pattern change next week. I mentioned this yesterday. With the southeast ridge developing, we're going to be warm again next week going into April, but unlike the pattern now that's kind of warm and dry, this could be a wetter pattern, and it's way out there. I know this is how bad we need rain. We start looking like 10, 15 days in the future for any kind of shift, but it does look like at least maybe we could have an opportunity for some weather to bring us some rain late next week. I don't know how optimistic you are about this, but at least I like seeing that pattern shift maybe a little bit for Easter weekend.
And that would be pretty high impact as we go into Easter weekend and people are, trying to do things outside or any of those things. It does look like a difference in the pattern, at least toward the end of next week. Trying to load up quickly from the CPC looks like they're giving us better than normal chances of at least having good rainfall or a little above average, but hey, that's not so bad. Looked like you had a big tour group in the studio there, by the way.
Yeah, we got to say hi. They're all on right now. We got some Girl Scouts in here. You guys can wave. This is our live weather impact show, guys. So they're visiting us today. So
nice.
Getting a little behind the scenes look, seeing how the magic's made. Yeah, Tim, I'm hoping for that weather pattern next week.
Hopefully they get a merit badge.
Yeah. We'll see what they get out of it. But I am hoping for a little bit of wet weather, but we don't want it to happen on Easter. I know that's the next thing people think. Like, at this point, Tim, we can't really be, choosing when the rain happens. We just got to take it. If it rains on Easter, I'm sorry, but we're going to need rain regardless. And just for the wildfires alone, which is something we'll have to monitor going through the weekend, because I don't think a lot of these fires are going to be out until we get substantial rainfall.
No, they won't. Hopefully the Artemis launch stays dry also for
you. That's true. That's coming up next week. Stay tuned for Artemis 2. We're going to have complete coverage here. That's all the time we have for today. We'll have more news coming up on WCNC Plus next.
Welcome, everyone, here to WCNC Plus in the Impact Studio for the next 2 hours. We have news for you, but the big news of the day in the sports world, at least, Will Wade leaving North Carolina State University to join LSU. LSU taking everybody's coaches. I'm sure you've seen social media. People are upset. Even staff at North Carolina State University has some things to say today. Let's listen in.
I just want to thank everyone for coming out today. I think Philip Rivers said it, right? And thinking about who we are, what we are, the Wolfpack ain't for soft people. We're going to go find a coach that agrees and understands who we are and what we are. For the past 7 years, we built a culture in the athletic department based on trust and accountability. We got coaches that want to be at NC State. They want to be a part of who we are, what we are, and represent this great university. We thought we had someone that came in last year to lead our men's basketball program. And over the course of the last year, we had developed a relationship that I believe was based on trust and accountability. There were a number of different conversations that had occurred over the past year, involving our program, involving everything else in the landscape of college sports, including Tuesday evening for 2 hours to talk about the entire program and scheduling and the players and staff and everything that goes into that. There was no reason for me in my job not to believe the words that I was hearing coming back to me from Coach Wade. And I believe everyone here saw it, wrote about it, whatever it is, that I want to be at NC State. That's where I want to be. I look forward to growing it. I was as surprised and shocked as anyone else as this occurred, based on the previous conversations that we had had. I believed he was telling me his true intentions. I'm disappointed for our athletic department, I'm disappointed for our fans, and I'm disappointed for our university that we're here today. That being said, as soon as we received notice of his resignation, the search began. And we are committed to finding the next coach for our men's basketball program that wants to be at NC State, that understands who we are, that understands that we're a tough school, that understands that we're a great academic institution, that understands that our fan base has very high expectations and can embrace that. I believe everyone felt this year, being in the Lenovo Center, what this can be. And with 5 sellouts this year, and to hear the roof raised at different times during different games because of our fan base, because of our students and their ability to connect, that's what our mission is, and that's what we're going to accomplish. Questions?
You guys would wave. You got the microphone. Camera will bring to you.
How much was the buyout?
I didn't have any questions.
How much is the buyout? We good?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah. So the buyout, we everything's a negotiation, right? As you're looking at everything that's going on, and as we were talking through this, I believe everyone knows prior to April 2nd, the buyout was going to be $5 million. After April 2nd, the buyout was going to move to $3 million. We settled at a $4 million buyout. The reason we did that is to pick up the days in between today, which I think is the 26th, right? Today's the 26th until the 2nd, as opposed to having to wait until the 2nd. So for us, being able to move forward was not just as important, but we understood the dollar amount versus the value of time, and we chose to settle at $4 million.
Hey, Carly Haynes with WREL. Do you have any reason to believe that LSU was in touch with Wade before the end of the season?
I think that's a question you need to ask LSU, and you need to ask Coach Wade. I've got my own thoughts on where we are. I know that the number of times we had conversations about the job, including one time where it was, do we need to talk about this? And the answer was no. I believe a number of people may have been at the ACC tournament where the answer was a definitive, I'm going to be here. After we lost in the ACC tournament to Virginia, there was another confirmation. After the NCAA tournament, there was another confirmation. So I think that's a better question answered by LSU than it is by Coach Wade.
And when were you actually aware of the resignation?
Yesterday morning, as I came into work. Again, you're aware of rumor and innuendo, but I don't know if y'all know this or not, the internet has a lot of rumor and innuendo on it, right, is what's going on. So again, as we looked at that, it became apparent that this could be a potential outcome. And at that point in time, we engaged in conversations.
Boo, Michael Perchik, ABC 11. Was there ever a meeting that you had scheduled with Coach Wade this week in which he chose not to show up for?
There was.
What was your reaction? Did you give any sort of communication that he was not going to show up to that meeting, or he simply just no-showed and you've not heard from him?
Yeah, he no-showed. As well as we did have other meetings. I don't want to say that. There were other phone calls and there were other face-to-face meetings. But there was also one that was missed.
The transfer portal starting, how much does that speed things up? And how open are you to maybe assisting coaches or people that aren't just college head coaches? And how different is it compared to, say, last year's search?
I don't know that it's a whole lot different than last year's search. If anything, with the transfer portal moving to the end of the Final Four, maybe there's a little bit less from that standpoint. We want to find the right person for NC State, right? And what that looks like. We need to make sure that we have a person that's committed to this university, that wants to be at this university, that shares our values of trust and accountability, that will lead this program. Where it goes, well, these things are kind of living organisms, right? You think it's going to go down this path, and then it takes a left turn or a right turn as we go down it, but we're going to find the right person.
I may have missed this earlier, but at what point did you start coming up with a board or start coming up with an idea of who might be the next head coach for NC State?
I'm not I don't have a top drawer in my desk to pull out where all the names are, but you always know what's going on and try to pay attention for what's going on. Did I think it was going to be us at this point? No, I did not. But do you have friends that are in my role at other schools that you want to be able to talk with and understand the landscape of what's going on? 100% you do. But like I said, as soon as we received notification of the resignation, we started. I also don't believe in doing something before you know the final outcome. I think there's a lot of people that, actually I don't know if there's a lot of people that do this, but my perception at times is people move before anything's done, and I don't like that idea. I like the idea of knowing exactly where you end and then you start. Much like today is going to be the end of Coach Wade. And then we're going to go find a coach, and then we're going to celebrate the new coach as we move forward.
This might be a dumb question, but what was just your initial reaction when you saw the resignation?
Disappointment, right? Probably more than anything else. You spend a year getting to know someone, right? And you get to know their staff, and you get to know the people around them. And these jobs aren't easy, right? I'm not complaining. I love what I do for a living, right? But at times, you're pouring into other people. It's more about other people's journey than it is yours. I don't care about my journey. That'll be when Chris and I retire, and whenever, in 10 years, we can sit back and look at that. But you spend a lot of time personally. Your staff spends a lot of time making sure that people have the resources that they need, right? Making sure that the answer to the best of your ability is yes, right? We don't say no just to say no. we don't play games with our coaches. We don't posture and do those things. If we can help, we're going to do everything we can to help. So I would say disappointment.
Part of the reporting around it was the NIL number to have to build a roster. Where would you say that kind of stands going for the new?
We're going to be competitive. We were competitive this year with our NIL. We've been competitive with our program in general. You look at who we play, where we go, how we travel, everything about our program is not missing, right? I believe Coach Wade was very, when he got here, very much in line with we have everything we need, right? I feel like we have everything we need, and we're going to do everything we can to be as competitive as we can and compete for a national championship.
And then you mentioned you're looking for a coach that fits the NC State. What are some traits you're looking for in a coach, and does it have to be a sitting head coach at this point?
No, I don't think it has to be a sitting head coach at this point. I think we want to find someone that knows how to coach, right? And is a great coach. It has the ability to connect with people, right? Both internal, external, with the players, be able to recruit. You have to be a good recruiter in this day and age. You have to understand what's going on with NIL, what's going on with the transfer portal. How do you put your team together, right? Have a plan to put your team together. I think we saw this year, maybe if some of our players were 4 inches taller, it could have been a little bit better, right? No shade on our players this year, but the importance of a rim protector has really become something more definitive in college basketball, and we need to make sure that we have someone to come in here that knows how to build a roster, knows how to put the pieces together in a right way to have a very competitive team.
Hey, Patrick Thomas from Spectrum News 1. While so much focus is on, well, waiting to confirm that Coach Wade did, and now you're talking about, I want to quickly dive into the ACC, the state of it, and how, while there have been successive years of increases in revenue, it's not necessarily keeping up with the SEC and Big Ten. How do you think that factors into your ability to draw in the right candidate for a place like NC State?
NC State's a great university. I think the ACC is a great league. We live in Raleigh, North Carolina. I think there's so many attractive aspects of who we are and what we are. It's up to us. It's incumbent upon us in the athletic department to find the dollars, to be able to rev share, to be able to work with Learfield, be able to work with corporations, be able to find those dollars in the market. But we've got an unbelievably strong base to work from. We spent a lot of time, comparison's a thief of joy. Right, and we believe that in our athletic department, that we need to do everything we can to make NC State the best NC State we can be, and then let other people compete with us. So is it a factor? It could be, but again, that's a better question for Coach Wade.
CBS 17. Pack fans always pony up. How do you reassure them that everything's going to be okay?
How great was the Lenovo Center this year, right? I mean, how much fun was it to be in there with all the people and sharing the passion that we have for this great university? I think you can look at some of the coaches that we've hired and the success that they've had. But I think you can look at the university itself, right, and what a strong university we have, and finding someone that just connects, right, that fits in with who we are, believes in what we do at NC State, is a heck of a coach. I clean my language up. Is a heck of a coach, right? Can find people, can build a team, can build a roster, can surround themselves with the right people, right, to be able to take us to a level beyond this year. I mean, it's great going to the NCAA tournament, right? But it's better going to the NCAA tournament and winning a couple games. And that certainly is what our expectation is.
Can you share anything in terms of what the conversations were with Coach Wade when you did meet? Was it him asking for certain further support, further investment? And when you did learn of his resignation, did he directly tell you that he was resigning, or you found out through an agent, or share how that kind of plays?
Yeah, I mean, we, again, go back to Tuesday night, we talked about everything in the program and what we can do, who we're going to play. You can't really talk, transfer portal's not open, so you can't talk about this person or that person. We talked about last year's team and who was going to be back. Asked him what he needed, right? What do we need to be competitive? From there, as far as the resignation letter, it was an email, right, that we received from his agent, and talking with his agent.
So he did not reach out to you directly?
Not from that standpoint.
What have you been able to say to the players with remaining eligibility? And is there anybody who, I don't know if the interim coach is the right word, but anybody that will be a conduit, I guess, until the transfer portal begins?
Yeah, we're
Coach gets hired?
Yeah, we have some people that are still in the building that have been in contact with the student athletes. I have personally not spoken with the student athletes. I've been a little tied up on other things, but we have senior staff members that have reached out to our student athletes to let them know that we are available, want to help whatever they need from a workout standpoint, from a trainer standpoint, and rehab and those types of things. But you know, a lot of this in this day and age, there's going to be a lot of movement. Right, there's going to be a lot of movement with the team, and we want to make sure the ones that are here that are committed to NC State know that that commitment is from us as well. And whatever decision they make at that point, it's going to be up to them and whoever we hire.
Going off of that, is there a specific team of people in place right now to kind of help the transition from Wade to whoever the next?
Yeah, there are.
Who's part of it?
There are. It's our training staff, our strength and conditioning staff. With all this happening today, I'm not sure, from a strength and conditioning standpoint, if that person is going to go with Coach Wade or not go with Coach Wade. And the trainer, are they going to go with Coach Wade or not go with Coach Wade? We did have meetings today with the head of strength and conditioning, with the head of our athletic training, as well as nutrition, to make sure that we have people in place to make sure that our students are taken care of.
You said that you got the resignation email from his agent that he had reached out. To be clear, he has not reached out since then at all? Or have you spoken to him?
I have not spoken to Will since yesterday at noon. Probably about 1 o'clock by the time the meeting ended.
Any other questions, Rob?
All right, folks, going to take a quick 2-minute break. We'll come back talking to the NC State AD right after this message. All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm going to go back to NC State and the AD speaking right now.
Obviously, this is fresh. And
Sure.
when you're going through the process of looking for the next person, and I don't think you can guarantee this by any stretch, but how much of a priority is going to be, I want someone that looks at this as an in-game destination instead of a jumping point.
It's a priority, right? And I believe we're that school, right? I believe we're a school that someone can stay for 10 years and have an unbelievably great run here. So that's 100% what we're looking for, right? We don't want to be a stepping stone on the way to another job. And again, we thought we had that, right? In every conversation, in every release, and everything that was out there, we believed that we had that, right? So we're going to go out and find someone again.
And my final question, sir, again, through no fault of your own, I don't think, there's a lot of people, particularly the ones in NIL, that subsidize the success of athletics, that feel disappointed, maybe even feel like they were lied to. How do you speak to them in regards to what you're going to do in the future, and to sort of say, hey, stick around, stick with us, we're going to do this?
Well, I think those people also saw what happened this year, right? And the excitement in the building and the pride that people have in being on Big Monday and being on ESPN and who we're playing in the games and all of those things are a part of it. That hasn't changed, Rob, right? You know, I think I would commiserate with them in terms of feeling lied to, right? And let them know that it's not something that I didn't know anything about, and you know, as surprised as they are by what's going on, but reassure them that we're going to find a coach that wants to be at NC State and wants to be at NC State for a long time.
Will there be again, I might have missed this earlier, and I apologize if I did, but will there be a search firm for this, or you guys, how are you planning on conducting the search?
We have not decided on whether or not we're going to use a search firm at this point. Right now, we're not. We're not going to use a search firm. You know, we went through this a year ago. We got a pretty good idea of what's going on and what the market is and where salaries are and all of those things. So I don't believe that we're going to use a search firm this time.
And do you feel like it was a misstep at all in the contract negotiations last year to have a $5 million buyout as opposed to a larger buyout by the individual person?
Well, I mean, you can look at it a couple different ways. Like today, do I wish it was a bigger buyout? Absolutely, I wish it was a bigger buyout, right? But I think if you look at the 2.5 that we were paying Coach Wade as opposed to what some of the other people were paying, which was significantly more for coaches with less experience, you know, there's going to be give and take in every negotiation, and you know, a really good negotiation is when both sides leave a little bit upset. Right, not everyone gets exactly what they want, and I think that's what it is. And Jimmy Sexton was really good to work with. I do want to say that he's been a pro to work with, and I do appreciate the relationship that was developed with Jimmy.
Anything else?
Yeah.
All right, Noah. Who else?
In the back.
Here? Okay. Start here.
You kind of touched on it, but how much did you learn during the last year's coaching search that you can use with this one being another major hire?
Yeah, I think a lot, right? It's a little bit of muscle memory, right? Does not mean we want to do more of this, right? But the more that you do something, you know, a little bit more comfortable you are in that, you know, made a lot of really good contacts with people last year that are carrying over already to this year. I can assure you that between yesterday at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning and, you know, today, my phone has been in receive mode more than it's been in outgoing mode. So there's plenty of people I know that are very interested in this job, and a lot of work was done last year that will carry over to this year.
New General League Spectrum News 1. In this fast-moving world of college sports, a lot of times high-profile players who leave for another program after just a season for whatever reason get a lot of criticism. How would you compare this situation with Will Wade and him leaving after just a season?
You know, legitimate question. In my role I do not spend a lot of time directly with the student athletes talking about contracts and talking about that side. My job, I believe, is to be supportive of our coaches and make sure that they have the resources that they need. That being said, in this day and age, this is the day and age that we're in, right? Of people that want to move and people that are looking for something else, a bigger, better deal, if you will, at all times. And I think that's, for years, coaches were allowed to do that and students weren't, right? And now students are and coaches are. We love being at NC State, and we plan on being at NC State for a long time, right? But that's our decision in where we are. But, you know, I'm disappointed by how it went down. I really am, and I think to your point, Jaden, that's the word, right? It's just like really disappointed because you pour into people and you do those things, and most of the student deals are one-year deals, right? And that ability to go from school to school year over year contractually is a whole lot easier than it is, you know, with a coach in this situation.
Most ADs would not have done what you're doing right now. We appreciate it. Why was it so important for you to come in here and talk with us today?
I appreciate you saying that. One, I think it's important that we close this era, right? What happened this past year and the excitement around the program, and that is not something that the next coach needs to deal with, right? They get to build on what occurred. They get to build on 2,000 new season tickets that we sold last year and be a part of that. Their job is to move us forward, not backwards. My job is to deal with what we have today, right? And then in some relatively short order, I don't know what that means, right? Be able to announce a new head coach at NC State and allow them the opportunity to move forward as opposed to answering questions about Coach Wade. That's what my job is to be here and answer the coach questions about what happened.
Luke Nostein with WRAL. Instead of an email, would you rather that he told you this face to face?
I'm a handshake guy, you know? I'd rather shake someone's hand and say, are we good? Are you staying? Are we good on the numbers? Are we good on everything? The papers needs to be done. All of that stuff needs to be done. So, yeah, sure I would have.
All right, folks. A lot of stuff obviously happening here at North Carolina State. Sounds like they are going to be on a search to find their guy. We'll have more for you here in 2 minutes right here on WCNC Plus. We'll see you then. All right, everyone, we are back. It's been 2 years since the Key Bridge was struck and fell in Baltimore. There's a commemoration happening today for a ceremony. They have continued to work on this bridge. Let's go to this right now.
People who continue to make the Port of Baltimore the most remarkable in this country. And this morning, we return to a solemn place. We return to the water's edge. 2 years after a day that changed our state forever. Things look different, but the memories of that March morning, they remain as clear as ever. We remember looking out and seeing an enduring piece of the Baltimore skyline. A skyline, frankly, that has been there ever since I've been alive. That was then laying on top of a ship. A ship that was the length of 3 football fields. We remember the shock. We remember the sorrow. We remember the prayers that echoed all across the state of Maryland when our state woke up and realized the tragedy that had just taken place. And most of all, this morning we remember 6 patriots. People who worked while we slept. People who at that moment were unaccounted for. And the only ask that their families had was never forget about our family members. To the families of the victims, I know there is no words that we can say that can take away your grief, because the 6 victims of the Key Bridge collapse should be here right now. Rolian, Ronial, Castillo, Cabrera, Carlos, Daniel, Hernandez, Estrella, Alejandro, Hernandez, Fuentes, Miguel, Angel, Luna, Gonzalez, Jose, Menor, Lopez, Menor, Yacir, Suazo, Sandoval. All of them should be here now. But they're not gone from the hearts of all of us, and they're not gone from the hearts of all of those who love them. Viven en nuestros corazones. No pasa un día sin que pensamos en ustedes. Los vemos, estamos a su lado, y aquí estaremos, ahora y siempre. March 26th, 2024 is etched forever into the story of Maryland. But not just because of the horror of that morning. It's etched in our memories because of the heroism. It's etched in the memories that in the faces of one of the worst tragedies in our state's history, it was Marylanders who stepped up to serve, who were woken in the middle of the night, and were some of the first ones in the water, who were the ones who were making sure that people would stay off of the bridge. It's the firefighters who ran towards the danger before they even had a full understanding of what the danger even was. They just did it because people needed help. There was the private sector and the philanthropic groups who supported our people and who said, let us know how we can serve. It was the leaders at our local and our state and our federal levels who work not just around the clock, but who worked in partnership because that's what that moment required. There were no guarantees that we were going to be successful in the work that we were doing. The only thing we knew that morning was that we were now looking at a catastrophe that this state had never seen before. But we stayed together. We stayed focused. We never forgot about those who we were searching for and eventually lost. And we showed the country what it meant to be Maryland tough and Baltimore strong. We faced enormous obstacles of twisted steel, a river of uncertainty, livelihoods at risk. But the skeptics could not stop our people. When they said clearing the channel would take 11 months, Maryland got it done in 11 weeks. When the experts said that reaching a 70% design build could take 5 to 7 years, we got it done in 14 months. When the experts said that it could take years just to get permitting done, we got it done in months. And when forecasts showed job losses at the Port of Baltimore, port workers ended up handling a record number of containers in 2025 and actually added jobs. We remain committed to rebuilding the Francis Scott Key Bridge with intentionality, with speed, and with safety. And I will work with anybody to make sure that we see that happen. In January, I met with U.S. Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy, and as Secretary Duffy has noted, this is the fastest moving large infrastructure project in the United States, and we plan on keeping it that way. The Dolly struck the Key Bridge during my tenure. Yet, I plan on being the governor who cuts the ribbon to reopen the Francis Scott Key Bridge. At a time when too many people wonder whether building big and great things is still possible in our country, Maryland, once again, is going to lead the way and show what is possible. We will continue to recover, we will continue to rebuild, and we will continue to do it together. And we'll keep moving forward until a new Key Bridge arches over Baltimore's stunning skyline once again. May God watch over the victims. May God keep his eternal protection over them. May God keep these families of ones who are lost in his almighty hands. May the Lord continue to shine grace and comfort over our great state. And may this state continue to show the country what right looks like. I'm thankful for each and every one of you. And with that, I'll turn it over to my partner in the work, our Lieutenant Governor, Aruna Miller.
Thank you, Governor Moore. Good afternoon, everyone. They say that some days pass quietly and some days stay with us because they ask something of us. March 26, 2024 was one of those days. I will never forget the MDTA first responders who ran toward danger, the divers who entered dark, uncertain waters without hesitation, and everyone from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to our elected leaders, local organizations, to the construction crews, and to so many others who showed up day after day, determined to rebuild. And I remember Governor Moore, a steady hand and a compassionate leader, guiding our state through one of the most difficult moments in our state history. Governor, thank you for your leadership then and now. When I was in engineering school, I was taught that when you design roadways, bridges, and infrastructure, you don't design for the average day. You design for the day you hope will never come. But sometimes the worst day still comes. And on that day, families lost loved ones, men who came to work and never made it back home. Steel and concrete gave way, and our iconic Key Bridge collapsed. But watching how Marylanders met that moment, I learned something that no textbook can ever teach. That some things can never be engineered. The strength of a community that refuses to break. The human spirit, that you don't design. You witness it. You watch it rise, and you see it in the people. Today, 2 years after the tragic incident, we pause to remember those we lost. We stand with their families in grief and in love, and we honor the workers whose hands and hearts are rebuilding what was taken from us. We continue the work to rebuild. This will be Maryland's first cable-stayed bridge, over 2 miles long, designed higher, stronger, safer, with 230-foot clearings to support modern shipping. Crews are driving massive steel piles, some more than 200 feet long and 8 feet in diameter, deep into the riverbed to anchor the new bridge. Foundations are being built with tens and thousands of concrete, each footing the size of 2 basketball courts. And this project is advancing, as you heard from the governor, at a pace faster than any other bridge projects across the country. So yes, we will rebuild the bridge with the urgency and with the highest standards, because the people of Maryland deserve nothing less. 2 years ago, we faced the day that we hoped would never come. And today, we're doing what Marylanders do. We rebuild, we rise, and we move forward together. Now I'd like to invite the dynamic county executive from Baltimore County, Kathy Klossmeyer, to share some remarks with us.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. I don't know if I'm going to be as dynamic as you're saying, but I'll try my best. And thank you for your comments, and thank you, Governor Moore, for your really just put it all out there for the entire day of and what we're really doing for as a state. So thank you very, very much. But thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to say a few words today. And before I go any further, I just would like to say I think I see one of my councilmen back there, Izzy Patoka, and did I see Julian Jones? So I would be remiss if I did not say that. So, but thanks for the opportunity to say a few words. And I think everybody in this audience is probably thinking in their mind what you would say coming today. And I bet everybody in this audience would remember where they were when we heard about the tragedy. I know exactly where I was. I know exactly who I was talking to. And it just broke my heart. So, but when the bridge was first opened in 1977 until 2 years ago, it's been a constant figure that has towered over our waterways. And I can remember even all the way out in Fullerton, Perry Hall, on the top of the hill, you could see it. You could always, you got to the crest of the hill and you would see it and think, boy, that's a beautiful bridge. And it did so much for everyone. So for so long, the Key Bridge was a symbol of opportunity that connected places like Turner Stations and Hawkins Point and other bright new opportunities. Losing the Key Bridge 2 years ago left a hole in our hearts and in the sky. But despite this tragedy, our region rallied together to begin the important work of cleaning the site, rebuilding the bridge, and helping everyone who was affected. Today, we're grateful to move forward with purpose and determination. This anniversary is an opportunity to stand together as one community, united by our resolves to rebuild this bridge and honor those that we lost. And we will do it faster than any other bridge in the country. To the first responders who acted immediately and put themselves in danger to help people, we are deeply grateful. To all the port workers, how you all rallied together and really made sure that the waterways were open. And to the 6 lives we lost that day, 6 community members who were working to make this bridge and our region stronger, we will always remember and honor them. Please keep them in your thoughts and prayers, and we cannot forget them. And please always keep their families in your prayers as well. At this time, I'd like to take a moment of silence, and so we can reflect on the legacy together, just for a minute. And thank the Lord for all that He's done, and thank you. And I am proud of the work we're doing to rebuild, and I'm grateful for everyone's support today. So thank you very much. And Stuart, yeah, okay, come on up here. And next we have Anne Arundel County Stuart Pittman, the CE there.
Thank you.
Dynamic too.
Thank you, County Executive Klaus Meyer. And thank you, Governor Moore and Lieutenant Governor Miller. You know, when I went to bed on March 25th, 2024, I would not have believed if somebody had told me that before dawn I would be on the phone with our governor, with Mayor Scott, with County Executive Olszewski, now Congressman Olszewski, with my police chief who's here, Amal Awad, with my fire chief who I was told was here, Trish Wolford, I believe, and that I would be up here in the morning amidst a group of incredible, incredible public servants who were starting right away and getting to work. The world looked at Maryland and saw what Maryland tough, Baltimore strong is, and then we Americans found out that 6 workers on the bridge had died. And I later found out that they had come to this country from Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico, and El Salvador. Just like my ancestors came to this country looking for a better life, and most of yours did as well. I got to know the family of the Anne Arundel County resident. By the way, we're right over there on the other side of the bridge, just to the south. Miguel Luna, his wife Maria del Carmen, who ran and runs a small business selling delicious Salvadoran food from a truck. I was able to attend Miguel's memorial service. and was struck by the heart, the soul, the hard work, the passion of the Salvadoran community in Anne Arundel County, and just so blessed that they are here. So, to the families, yo quiero decir a todas las familias, te queremos aquí en nuestro condado, en el estado de Maryland. Unfortunately, some of those families are not going out in public a whole lot these days. But in Maryland, we celebrate them. I want to thank Governor Moore in particular for the way that he led. I attended a number of meetings. I was honored and surprised to be invited to these meetings where the governor and other local officials and the lieutenant governor were peppering the team, the Coast Guard, Army Corps, State Transportation, State Police, with questions and getting answers and figuring out how to cut through the red tape, how to move more quickly than has ever been done to make sure that we're meeting with this moment with the sense of urgency and the creativity that it would take to get the job done, of clearing the channel and then of moving the project forward. I was out there this morning, the governor, folks from Maryland Transportation, and getting briefed on the progress. I've been at previous meetings about that as well. And it is extraordinary how long it takes to build a bridge in the United States normally. Years and years and years and years. And I've looked at charts and compared where we are compared to where they are. And ours is moving faster than anybody else's in the country for a bridge of this magnitude. They decided to do designing and building at the same time to move things forward quickly. They've expedited everything and had incredibly complex revenue sources to get the job done that have to be blended. And every one of those revenue sources, some coming from lawsuits, some coming from federal government, has to be managed according to the rules. And there are microscopes on this project from everywhere. So I believe this is the most transparent project that I've ever seen in my life, public project. And I just want to thank all of you who are working on it, that we are moving as quickly as we are. We had a moment of silence out there, and what was not silent was the hammer driving those pylons into the ground. You can hear them now. So I want to make sure that we always remember what happened on that day, and that we remember the 6 men who lost their lives, and that we embrace their families. I hope that we're working on a memorial idea that is permanent. We have a wonderful memorial that the families put together that is temporary. And we have a beautiful park Fort Smallwood, from which you can see the bridge, and a wonderful place to stand and remember what happened there, and to look at the beautiful new bridge that is going to happen while our governor is still in office. So thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today we reflect and remember the moment that changed Maryland. We remember the victims and their families. We remember the first responders from near and far who showed up 2 years ago and returned day after day. Today we thank Governor Moore for his steadfast leadership on navigating Maryland through troubled waters and showcasing the Port of Baltimore's resilience. We also thank all of our local, state, federal, and private partners. Together, we are showing the world that Maryland can accomplish great results when we work with each other. The collaboration between everyone, including our fantastic federal delegation, many of whom are not here today because they're in Congress voting, has only grown stronger with the passing days and months. The Maryland Transportation Authority and Executive Director Bruce Gartner have done a tremendous job getting the project ready for construction, and as you hear in the background, the sounds of progress. We are working at breakneck speed to rebuild the Key Bridge and make the region whole again. As the new bridge begins to emerge from the Patapsco River, the Maryland Department of Transportation is committed to engaging with the communities and providing commuters with relief across the region. We know the Key Bridge will rise again to serve as Baltimore's gateway, and it will also be a bridge to our future. Thank you so much. Now it is my distinguished honor to welcome one of Maryland's finest first responders, who led his team through the tragedy and whose officers saved lives that night. Please welcome MDTA Police Chief Colonel Joseph Scott.
Good afternoon. To the Honorable Governor Wes Moore, thank you. 2 years ago, Marylanders awakened to the news that the Francis Scott Key Bridge had collapsed. And in that awakening, they also had fear and doubt and fear of the unknown. And what Governor Moore became, he became that very light in the dark place. He also became the peace in the midst of the storm. So for that, sir, I thank you. I'm truly honored to stand here today and speak on behalf of the first responders. 2 years ago, our state experienced something we never experienced before. The collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge was not just a headline, it was personal. It affected people, family, and all who served the community. Today we pause to remember those who were lost, but also to honor the resilience, unity, and strength that followed. On that day, lives were impacted, families were changed, communities were shaken, and a vital piece of infrastructure, something that connected people, commerce, and opportunity, was gone. But in the face of that devastating time, something powerful emerged. First responders came from far and wide. Different agencies with different roles, without hesitation. No one stopped to ask the question, why? People showed up ready to serve. I remember how the focus was on the people who were on the bridge. Every decision was about doing everything possible to protect and save lives. There was urgency, without a doubt, but there was also a deep level of care behind everything we did. I remember the teamwork, people who were working side by side, hand in hand, who had never met each other before. There was a trust, communication, a shared understanding that we were all in this together. And I will never forget the support from the communities, the messages, the outreach, community members showing up at police headquarters. It reminded us as first responders of why we do what we do. For the first responders community, this was more than an operational challenge. It was a test of who we are. We defined it with humanity, and how we cared for those who were impacted, and how we cared for one another. We defined it with skill, and how we responded, stayed focused, and did our job. And we defined it with grace, during one of the most difficult moments that we had ever faced. Over the past 2 years, we have strengthened coordination across agencies and remained focused on serving people, because this moment reminded us of something very important. Our infrastructure is not just steel and concrete, but it represents connections, livelihoods, and trust. And trust is something we can continue to build on each and every day. So today, we come to remember, but we also understand we have a responsibility. We continue to protect and serve, and to show up for each other and the people who count on us every day. But on that day, first responders, we became one. And for that reason, I pray that we never, ever forget that day. Thank you. And at this time, I would like to introduce Maryland Port Administration Deputy Executive Director, Mr. Brian Miller.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick 2-minute break. We'll be back right after this. All right, folks, we're back. We're going to go back to the Key Bridge commemoration right now in Baltimore.
Colonel Scott, Governor, thank you for your leadership during the hardship and time that we went through. Much appreciated, sir. On behalf of Executive Port Director Jonathan Daniels, who is currently on the road right now securing more business for the Port of Baltimore, I appreciate the opportunity to be here today to represent the Maryland Port Administration and the Port of Baltimore. I join everyone in remembering the 6 men who lost their lives 2 years ago. When the dolly slammed into the Francis Scott Key Bridge in the early morning hours of March 26th, we had no idea how long the Port of Baltimore would be impacted. Our main shipping channel was blocked for 11 weeks, and ships that were destined to come to Baltimore to bring business to our state, to support tens and thousands of jobs, were instead diverted to other ports. 2 years later, we continue to feel the impact of this tragedy. But thanks to Governor Moore's leadership and the overall resiliency of our port partners, ILA longshoremen, truckers, and the overall supply chain, we're making great strides in our recovery. Happy to say that just last year we set a new record for the largest number of containers to come through the Port of Baltimore, our second best year for handling cargo, which is a testament to the port community after what we went through. The Port of Baltimore will continue to progress forward in its recovery and more than ever support its mission of generating jobs, well-paying jobs, in Maryland through waterborne commerce. Thank you, and I turn it back over now to the Governor of the greatest state in the country, Maryland. I'm so sorry. It's okay. It's okay.
So you talked about building this bridge fast and safely and whatnot, but there are some people in the community who say that it's going too fast, and they wanted the design to incorporate what they call 21st century things like bike lanes. And I was just wondering if you could speak
Thank you so much. Should I repeat the question? Okay. So thank you for the question, and it's a concern that people are saying that we are building fast, but some people are saying that we're building too fast, that there are other things that we want to be able to get done, and they want us to kind of slow the process down. I genuinely understand the concern, and one thing that I'm very proud of this entire team, that we are working in very close coordination with the community, working in very close coordination with the communities that are the most directly impacted, communities like Dundalk and Turner Station, and we also know that speed and efficiency and intentionality and safety are still the priorities. That the promise that we made to the people of Maryland, the promise that we made to the people of this country, and the promise that we made to Congress, who authorized the 100% cost share that we now have with Congress, is that we are going to make this the fastest moving large project in this country, and we plan on standing by that. We know that the build that we are doing is a cable stay bridge, and that cable stay bridge, which was highlighted earlier, the importance of doing the design and the build at the same time, was that we know this bridge is going to be a bridge that is going to meet all safety requirements for 2026. We know that this is going to be a bridge that will be able to withstand the type of ships and the size and the enormity of the ships that are now moving, which are different than the size of the ships that we saw back when this bridge was completed in 1977. But the commitment that we have is that we are going to do something with a speed that this moment requires, and also, frankly, a speed that the Port of Baltimore requires. That this is one of the core arteries to one of the most important ports in this country, and so we have a fundamental, not just commitment, but an obsession to make sure that we get this done in partnership with community, but get it done quickly, efficiently, and safely. Absolutely. I'll take it initially, and then Madam Secretary, if you want to, or Bruce after that. So the decision to do a design build was really about how do we focus on speed and cost effectiveness. But one thing that we knew was that we had to be able to move quickly. So we worked in partnership with our federal partners. We were able to cut the red tape and streamline the process, where it is true that getting to a 70% design build can take up to 5 to 7 years. This extraordinary team got it done in 14 months. And so there's been a historic speed that we've been able to move at, but we have not at all had to compromise safety. We've not at all had to compromise design within that process, because those were tantamount to anything else that was happening.
Good afternoon, Bruce Gardner, Executive Director of MDTA. On the progressive design build model, it's a very safe model. The design build has been around for a long time in the country. What the engineers were able to do here is work closely on that design with the contracting team, so they know what is going in the riverbed here, starting from the ground up. So you have a lot of decisions, early decisions made. You lock those in, you keep going. So that is how this project has progressed. That's why you're seeing early works in the river right now before we finalize that.
Good. All right, folks, another 2-minute break here. We'll come back with more news on WCNC Plus. All right, folks, we are back. There is a No Kings protest again this weekend, not just here in Charlotte, all the way from Salisbury down to Fort Mill. We do have one of the organizers talking about what the actual focus is for this weekend. Let's listen into this.
To come together with millions of others for No Kings on Saturday. Our members will be turning out peacefully in the streets because they believe in a better future for this country, and they can't sit by on the sidelines about what Trump and his administration are doing to our home. Let's be clear. The Trump administration has become a threat to the American people at every level. They are waging violence at home and abroad. They spent $25 billion and counting on a war that nobody wants and that Congress has not authorized. They spent billions sending masked ICE agents to terrorize our communities and kill people. And now they're sending these same rogue agents to airports across the country and instilling fear in travelers everywhere. Where's the money for people struggling to afford their rent, groceries, gas, or health care? Where is the money for the TSA workers who haven't received a paycheck in weeks? Here's the thing. The Trump administration made a terrible miscalculation that we would cower and capitulate in response to their chaos and cruelty, that we would put up with our health care getting slashed, with gas prices and utility bills going through the roof, while they shower billionaires in tax cuts. Americans are no fools. A president and a government that prioritized our safety and our futures would invest in our people. That's why millions of us are rising up from all walks of life, from rural communities to big cities at No Kings. And as we do so, we will send the loudest, clearest message yet that this country does not belong to kings, dictators, tyrants. It belongs to us. And together, we have the power to build the country we dream of. And now I'm pleased to introduce Naveed Shah, a U.S. Army veteran and the political director at Common Defense.
Thanks, Katie. Good morning, everybody. My name is Naveed Shah. I'm the political director with Common Defense, and I'm honored to be here with you today. When I stood at the first No Kings rally, we were fighting to protect democracy at home and against federal agents and troops that were deployed on American streets, against a government that was manufacturing a crisis to justify using its power against its own people. Today, we're still fighting that same fight, but now that manufactured crisis has gone global. This illegal war with Iran is built on the same lies as the one with Iraq 20 years ago. I know because I lived it as an Army veteran who served in Iraq. Me and my friends know that our leaders lied to us into a war with no strategy and no end game. I swore an oath to this Constitution, not to a king, not to a politician, and I will not stay silent while we march down that same road into another forever war. Let me be clear about where we stand right now. 13 American service members have been killed, approximately 140 more have been wounded, and thousands across the Middle East have been killed, wounded, or displaced already, and this war is only 4 weeks old. There is no exit strategy, there is no plan for what comes next, and there are reports that boots on the ground are coming, which every veteran in this crowd knows means one thing: another quagmire in the Middle East with no end in sight. This war was not authorized by Congress, it was not even debated, and polling shows that you, the American people, do not want it. It's costing us more than $1 billion per day. The White House is now asking for $200 billion more. $200 billion. Let that sink in. That's Medicaid coverage for families where a diagnosis is away from bankruptcy. That's housing for veterans who are sleeping on the streets. That's childcare for working parents who can't afford to go back to work. That's community college for kids who just want a shot at the future. That's money for the people of this country. Instead, it is being funneled into a war no one voted for under a commander-in-chief who believes that his power is absolute. But in America, we have no kings. We saw that truth with the first No Kings. We saw it at the second. And today we're saying it louder than ever because the stakes are higher than ever. What started as a fight against troops on American streets has become a fight against an administration that will deploy force anywhere, at home or abroad, to distract from the fact that everyday Americans are still having to make impossible choices at the gas station, at the grocery store, and at the kitchen table, wondering how they're going to make it to the end of the month. They want us distracted by the spectacle, but we're focused on the people. And while they're posting meme videos glorifying this war, and the Secretary of Defense is talking about giving no quarter to our enemies, I need every person watching to understand what this means to the men and women actually serving. Those words and those videos don't make us look cool or strong. They put a bigger target on our troops. If we declare no quarter, then the enemy has no reason to treat our troops humanely, such as pilots who get shot down behind enemy lines, which is real because we've already had several air assets downed in the region. They put a bullseye on every service member downrange. That's not leadership. That's not support for the troops. That's reckless. It's dangerous, and veterans across this country are taking note. We didn't serve this country so it could be handed over to one man's ego. We served because we believe in something bigger. A government of the people, by the people, for the people. A constitution that means something. A democracy that's worth defending. That's what No Kings is all about. That's what all of you are. A people-powered movement that refuses to be props, refuses to be silent, and refuses to quit. So here's our ask. Show up on Saturday. If you haven't already, RSVP for your local No Kings event right now. There's over 3,000 of them. There's definitely one near you. The link is in your hands. It's on your website. There's no excuse not to be there and every reason to be there. Bring your neighbors, bring your family, bring anyone who has ever believed that this country belongs to its people. We need you out there peacefully and powerfully this Saturday. This is not the end of our republic. We keep going. And with that, I want to pass it to Deirdre Schiefling of the ACLU.
Thank you so much, Naveen. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Deirdre Schiefling. I'm the Chief Political and Advocacy Officer for the ACLU. The ACLU is proud to stand with this coalition to bring the public together for the most patriotic and American thing we can do, peacefully and lawfully protesting to protect our democracy and our rights. The best way to protect our freedom is to act free. We do not recognize a country where masked, unidentified men violently kidnap people off the street, where ICE agents shoot and kill peaceful protesters with impunity, where the president bombs other countries with no authorization and acts as if Congress is a nice to have, not a must have, branch of government. I don't recognize it. And the unprecedented scale of protest we will see on Saturday demonstrates that the American people don't recognize it either. And we do not accept it. We are fed up. We are fed up with the president using ICE as his personal police force for furthering his political agenda. We are fed up with the violent and inhumane treatment of our immigrant neighbors. Fed up with the president trying to do away with birthright citizenship. Fed up with this president's repeated abuses of power to punish and silence anyone who disagrees with him. Fed up with attacks on our voting rights. Fed up with our own government being weaponized against us. A democracy is ruled by the demos, the people. We elect our representatives to represent us, not to rule over us. Apparently, President Trump didn't get the memo. This No Kings protest will make sure he does. It is our right and our duty to challenge these unprecedented threats to our rights and liberties and defend the future of our country. And it works. Whenever we stand up to President Trump's abuses of power, like most bullies, he backs down. We saw it when we held protests after the president's illegal deployment of the National Guard to intimidate protesters in Los Angeles. He backed down. We saw it when we held massive protests after ICE murdered Renee Good and Alex Preddy in Minneapolis. He backed down. And we will see it again on Saturday when millions come out again. It is our responsibility to continue to resist. Peaceful resistance is the antidote to repression, and it's the antidote to the despair and powerlessness that repression is trying to make us feel. We are powerful together. We are powerful when we use our freedom, when we act free. So we will be on the ground in all 50 states on Saturday. In 3,000 different towns, cities, neighborhoods, we will be loud, proud, joyful, and determined in defense of our rights, in defense of our democratic country. No Kings is more than a single day of protest. It's a growing movement of people determined to act free. to be free, to stay free. See you in the streets on Saturday. And with that, I will now pass it to Sarah Parker with 5051 and the Voices of Florida Fund.
Thank you so much. Hi, my name is Sarah Parker. I am I'm one of the 5051 national coordinators, and I am also the executive director of Voices of Florida Fund. I want to start off by naming how incredibly important this moment is. Since the last No Kings, we're seeing higher gas prices and groceries, all while there's an illegal war in Iran. We've also seen our neighbors executed, American citizens executed, and our children carrying the burden of owning their own power and walking out of school in defiance. The people of America are pissed. They are the ones demanding for No Kings. They are the ones powering this movement, and this movement is owned by them and driven by them. I want to be crystal clear that these people are not just showing up because they're angry. They're showing up most importantly because of love, disciplined and real love, love for their neighbor, their community, and most importantly as a mother, love for their children. Anyone who says that this movement is not powered by love or the people, they're using smoke and mirrors and trying to change the narrative with played out talking points. The people that are mobilizing on March 28th are refusing to cede ground to an authoritarian because they love their country. Let me give you some numbers. We've officially surpassed our previous records in reach and are currently tracking over 2,200 non-urban events across 2,100 unique cities. Places like Arizona are creating an 8-mile-long protest from Tucson to Oro Valley and making a visible corridor of democracy. These leaders are putting their communities first when the administration refuses to and have been trained in de-escalation. They know that discipline breeds power and power breeds change. They have been working around the clock to create a safe, nonviolent, and disciplined event. March 28th, we will once again take the streets by the millions and demand No Kings in America and demand a free and fair democracy. And most importantly, demand the American dream that we were all promised. Thank you so much. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Lisa Gilbert from Public Citizen.
Thanks so much for those inspiring words, Sarah, and that introduction, and welcome everyone. Before I jump in, I just want to encourage anyone with us today who has questions to stick them in the Q&A box. We will try to get to them when we are done. So as Sarah said, I'm Lisa Gilbert. I'm co-president of Public Citizen. Public Citizen's mission on behalf of our million-plus members is to fight corporate power and preserve our democracy. And I couldn't be more excited than being here today with all of these incredible speakers talking about the critical inflection point that is coming at us this weekend. This is our chance to say no to the lawlessness, to the cruelty that is being perpetrated by our very own wannabe dictator, Donald Trump. It's our chance to say no to a president that has been consistently abusing his power. He's sending masked agents into our streets and now our airports. He is terrorizing our communities, and he's detaining people without warrants. He's threatening to overtake our elections and trying to make voting more difficult and rigging electoral maps to try and silence dissent. He's spending billions of our tax dollars on missile strikes abroad in support of an illegal and unauthorized war. And he has just taken overall lawlessness to a new level, from political prosecutions embarked upon by his clearly non-independent DOJ, to the arrest of a sitting member of Congress just for performing her oversight role, to the militarization of all of our cities without cause, to court defiance, to attacks on sitting judges, the media, universities, nonprofits. Unfortunately, this list is kind of endless. And this is all, of course, in addition to the blatant corruption that we have seen as we've watched Trump and his family cash in on the presidency, adding billions to their own wealth. But No Kings is about the fight, and we are fighting back. The Trump regime, what they want to do is intimidate opponents. They want to chill dissent. They want to silence us. They want us to be scared and isolated. But we are instead joining together in overwhelming numbers to speak out against authoritarianism and these abuses of power. You know, as others have said, we are seeing staggering numbers of No Kings events across the country, but particularly notable and worth mentioning are the many, many rallies planned in red states and the massive surges of RSVPs in suburban areas. This is the definition of a groundswell. No matter where these events are located, these protests are nonviolent. They're disciplined. They will be grounded in solidarity. And this is really what the administration is scared of, our unity in this moment. And that's what we're going to show them in droves this Saturday. Our courage, our unity, our conviction, and that we will not suffer kings in America. So with that, I'm thrilled to hand it to the next speaker, the incredible Randy Weingarten, president of the American Federation of Teachers.
Unmute. Thank you, Lisa, so much. And, you know, there's something about going close to last because you can just say ditto, ditto, ditto to everything everybody has said. Let me just start by this. Very early on, when No King started, people said, this is a democracy. What are you talking about? We don't have a king. Donald Trump was elected as president. The Congress was elected. But look what is happening. Every single time the people are saying, this is what we need. What is happening with this administration? One of our speakers said it already. $1 billion a day for this war. And yet we couldn't find the money for the Obamacare tax credits. Then now we're seeing a huge increase in premium payments that people have had to pay. We couldn't find the money for Medicaid that is closing rural hospitals all over America. We couldn't find the money for SNAP when people were having parties at Mar-a-Lago. The people are saying we need to find a way to support ourselves. We don't want a war that's costing billions of dollars. We don't want a war that is increasing the cost of gas. We don't want a debate that is actually making the lines of TSA, like the line I had this morning, hours long. People in America are saying you have been elected to help us and our families have a better life, not to help the billionaires, not to create robots as teachers, not to just create ways that you and your family get rich, Donald Trump. And that's why more and more people see him as a king, as opposed to someone who is listening to the people of America saying simply, I need a better life for myself and my families. You were elected to do that. And so what No Kings is about, and you hear it, it doesn't matter whether we're fighting against or for voting rights or fighting for immigrant rights or fighting for our neighbors or fighting to make sure that we can make ends meet for our kids and our families. We're saying that we, the people, make that decision in a democracy, not a king, not a monarch, not a crown, not a throne that is making these decisions for us without even listening to us. That is the essence of how this movement operates. Cross-coalition, cross-faith, cross-race, cross-geography, cross-demography, because we're sending a message that says it's the people in America that make decisions about America. That's what a democracy is. And it's the people of America who want dignity and respect and economic security. So my members, educators and nurses across the country, are going to be out there everywhere on Saturday. And we're asking every one of you, if you care about this country, if you care about immigrants, if you care about our neighbors, if you care about strangers, if you care about kids, if you care about vets, if you care about our military, if you care about voting, if you care about the future, join us on Saturday to say, we the people want a government that befits freedom and opportunity and fairness. That's why we're calling for no kings and no thrones and no crowns. Thank you. And I'm going to pass it to a colleague, dear colleague of mine forever, Reverend Al Sharpton.
All right, folks, we're going to take another 2-minute break. We'll come back as they're talking about these No Kings protests that'll happen this weekend. We'll see you in 2 minutes. All right, folks, welcome back. We're going to go back to these No Kings protests right now.
Network. We, as a civil rights organization, will be out in force with our chapters and affiliates all over the country because the threat to any of us is a threat to all of us. The civil rights movement, of which I grew up, had to fight to get voting rights. Women had to fight to get the right to vote. The irony is that this president, who wants to be treated as a king, wants to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the country on July 4th. Well, on July 4th, some of us, in July 4th, 1776, some of us were slaves. Women couldn't vote. Women got the right to vote because we fought, because we marched. Blacks got the right to vote. Bloodshed, interracial bloodshed. Goodman, Cheney, and Swerner, 2 Jews and a black, died to protect our right to vote. The sitting president, the wannabe king, is saying that he will not sign legislation unless you pass a bill that would in many ways impede that right to vote. So it is not just some abstract protest. It is a movement that has seen numbers across racial lines and economic lines. We may not all agree on some issues, but we all agree that if we do not protect the right to vote and protect democracy, it doesn't matter where we disagree. We will all be muted and ineffective. So I want you to know National Action Network will be out there. We have other civil rights groups joining, unions, and just regular people. Because if we don't protect our rights, we will not even have the capacity to debate whatever it is we may agree or disagree with. I'm on the road right now going to do a eulogy at another police victim's case. But I want police to march with us. Because it's not about what we are against, it's about what we are for. And we are for the right to express ourselves, even if we don't agree with each other on a particular issue. So Saturday is imperative. It is mandatory. One day your children will ask, where were you? when a man tried to become king, when so many gave their lives, shed blood, and gave their income up to give this democracy to where it is. And now it is under serious threat. We are sitting in a nation that is saying we want $200 billion to deal with Iran. We want to do change of the hierarchy and the government in Venezuela, while they are really trying to change government in the United States. Some of us are saying we cannot do that. We cannot allow that. You can finance wars around the world to change for regime change, but you will not have regime change in the United States. And that's why by the millions, we're all going to be out on Saturday. So I urge you to do it. I urge you in the name of those civil rights leaders that before me that paved the way, and I'm standing and marching for them. But you that come from different silos, different traditions, all of us are going to come together and stand together on Saturday and say no kings. Not now, not on our watch. Now I'm proud to bring you Edwin Torres de Santiago from the Minneapolis Immigrant Defense Fund. Let us hear Edwin.
Thank you so much, Reverend Al Sharpton. Good morning, everyone. My name is Edwin Torres de Santiago, and I lead the Immigrant Defense Network, the largest coalition of over 100 organizations protecting immigrant rights in Minnesota and in the upper Midwest. Right now, across Minnesota and across this country, immigrant families are living in fear that something as simple as going to work or taking their children to school could separate them from their loved ones. That is the reality. A mother texting her child just to say, I made it. A father calling in the middle of the day to just say, I'm okay. I know this because it's exactly what both of my parents do every single day. For 25 years, I lived without documentation, and my parents still do. And let's be clear about what is happening. You don't send mask agents into neighborhoods, into airports, into communities to keep people safe. You send them to keep people terrified. And that fear is not accidental. It is part of our larger escalation, and we're already seeing the consequences. We've seen the consequences. Keith Porter Jr., Renee Good, Alex Preddy, Dr. Linda Davis, Ruben Ray Martinez, and dozens of others that have been killed by this administration's escalation. And let's not forget the 40 deaths inside detention centers since this administration has taken office. Silence and inactions are not an option anymore. In Minnesota, when tragedy struck, our communities did not disappear. We showed up. They showed up. They protected each other. We protected each other. We marched by the thousands. And through that, the Immigrant Defense Network has grown into something powerful. We have trained over 33,000 constitutional observers, everyday people ready to document, to witness, and to defend each other. That is what people power looks like. And this Saturday, millions of people across this country will come together to say, enough. Enough fear, enough harm, enough abuse of power, because power does not come from intimidation. Power comes from the people. And let me now speak directly to our Spanish-speaking community. Y ahora quiero hablar directamente con nuestra comunidad latina. Soy Edwin Torres, el director de la Red Defensa de Inmigrantes acá en el estado de Minnesota. A las familias que están viviendo con miedo todos los días, a las madres que no saben si van a regresar a la casa, a los padres que salen a trabajar con el corazón en la mano, los vemos, los sentimos y estamos con ustedes. Sabemos lo que se siente vivir con ese miedo, el miedo de una puerta tocada por un agente de ICE, el miedo de una llamada que cambia su vida, el miedo de no saber si mañana todo seguirá igual. Pero quiero que escuchen con toda claridad, no están solos. No están solos en Minnesota, no están solos en el país y no están solos en esta lucha. Porque en este momento estamos construyendo algo poderoso, una red, una comunidad, un movimiento. La línea de defensa de inmigrantes no solo es una organización, es una línea de defensa, de protección, es de comunidad organizada. Somos miles de personas, más de 33,000 observadores constitucionales listos para protegernos a nosotros, listos para documentar injusticias, porque cuando intentan gobernar con miedo, respondemos con unidad. Este sábado millones de personas van a salir a las calles, no con violencia, sino con dignidad, con fuerza, con el poder de saber que estamos juntos. No hay fuerza más grande que nosotros. Y juntos vamos a resistir, juntos vamos a avanzar, y juntos vamos a ganar. Gracias. Thank you. Now I have the honor of introducing Leah Greenberg, Co-Executive Director of the Indivisible Project.
Thank you, Edwin. Thank you, everyone. It is great to be here with you. Just one more reminder to use the Q&A function to ask any questions that you've got. All right. From illegal wars to masked and violent agents in our streets to driving up costs for everyday families, this administration's actions are angering not just Democratic voters or folks in big blue city centers. They are crossing a line for people in red and rural areas in the suburbs all over the country. The defining story of this Saturday's mobilization is not just how many people are protesting, but where they are protesting. Our data shows 2/3, 66% of RSVPs coming from outside of major urban centers. This is up nearly 40% from the first No King's Day of Action last June. Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, Utah are all showing up with events in the double digits. We are seeing in Republican leaders' own backyards powerful pushback. There are 11 No Kings events in both Senator John Thune's state of South Dakota and in Rep. Mike Johnson's state of Louisiana. We're seeing huge RSVP surges in highly competitive bellwether suburban areas like Bucks in Delaware County in Pennsylvania, East Cobb and Forsyth in Georgia, Scottsdale and Chandler in Arizona. Voters who decide elections, the people who do the door knocking and the voter registration and all of the work of turning protest into power, they are taking to the streets right now and they are furious. Let's be clear, this administration is panicking. They are scrambling. They are searching for literally anything to distract from their own governing failures. They are escalating with violence at home and abroad because they know that they are flailing. It is no accident they've been quiet on No Kings recently. Last time, they tried to smear the millions of Americans who came out to peacefully and joyfully assert our rights. They realized that just draws attention and to the continued and increasing success of this movement, so they've pulled back. But we will not be silent. We will be louder than ever. And it doesn't end after March 28th. Our third No King's Day of Action will happen on Saturday, and Trump will still be in the White House. This illegal and unconstitutional war will still be going on. This administration's secret police force will still be terrorizing communities. That is why we see No Kings as not only a powerful day of defiance, but an organizing catalyst to support local organizing everywhere. The people who come out on these days, they get asked to show up on an ongoing basis for ICE Watch, for mutual aid, for defense and support of immigrant communities, for advocacy against this illegal and catastrophic war, for voter registration and all of the work of building power locally. We will continue organizing with them for what comes next. And now I think we will take questions.
Absolutely. So we're going to ask a few questions again. If you haven't yet, you want to ask a question, we will try to get to most of them. There are many questions here, but please feel free to drop those in the Q&A function. The first question for all panelists, and if you are able, please come off camera if you can answer these questions. How are you enacting change outside of the one day of protests? And are there any concrete progress examples you can give, big or small? Why do organizers say this moment is different from past protests? So how are you enacting changes outside of the one day of protests, and how is this different from past protests? So who wants to take that? Leah, do you want to go ahead?
Absolutely. Well, one thing that we think is really important is continuing to emphasize that this is one tactic in a sea of mass defiance that is taking place around the country, and it helps to both build on and fuel so many other approaches. And so we're working with local hosts, people who are organizations, groups, regular people who just got their protests together and are maybe figuring out what's next, to build out plans for how do you keep people engaged after No King. So we'll be talking and pre-planning with the folks who are organizing these all over the country to make sure that these are not only big moments, but also recruitment and absorption events. That, you know, the person who comes to the 50 or 200 person protest in a small town, they get signed up by somebody on a clipboard and they go to a meeting next week and they get trained up and they start to organize in their communities. That's going to look different in different places. It's going to look different based on your local priorities, based on who's leading the charge wherever you are. This isn't intended to be about one organization or one approach, but it is intended to move as many people as possible into ongoing, sustained, in real life activism on their home turf that starts to build and change power in this country.
Anyone else?
Oh, if I can add one additional thing, that's an approach that No Kings has put into action ourselves. Immediately after Alex Preddy's killing in Minnesota, we did a mass ice watch training that reached about 200,000 people in order to continue to make sure that the lessons and the stories of Minnesota were being heard on a national level, and to encourage people to step into ongoing, organized local activism wherever they are. So we are going to continue to use No Kings as a vehicle to support local organizing, as well as to drive these big national days of action.
I would just also just add in, this is Deirdre from the ACLU. One of the ways that people can take action in their own communities is by using the power that we have at the state and municipal level. So governors, state legislatures, mayors, city councils all have a role to play in protecting people's rights in their community. So wherever you live, we, our affiliates, ACLU, along with lots of members from the community, have been working together to pass what we are calling firewalls for freedom. These are laws on the books that protect people's rights, things like privacy rights, things like due process for immigrants in the community, protections for reproductive rights, protections for voting rights. Whatever kinds of rights this administration is threatening, there are ways to protect rights and slow down the attacks at the state and local level. So we really encourage folks to do that wherever you live. And No Kings is a big piece of that.
Sarah?
Yeah, I want to answer what's different between this moment. The last No Kings, this was right before Alex Preddy was executed in broad daylight. Renee Good was executed. It was right before we have TSA at airports. It is right before the fact that we were supposed to have lower grocery prices, I guess, a year ago, and now our grocery prices are higher. People can't even afford to get gas to take their kids to daycare. They can't afford to feed their children. Every single time we have a new No Kings, there's something else happening. It is consistent. We're going down a slippery slope into authoritarianism. So yes, this moment is different. Our neighbors are being executed. This moment is different. We have ICE at airports. This moment is different because there's an illegal war in Iran. This moment is completely different. We are saying No Kings in America for a reason.
Thank you so much. We've had a few questions on where our events, a couple different questions came in, like where are they? The red states, or are they in battleground states? Almost 50% of No Kings events are in either a red state or a battleground area for this year. That's significant. And I know, Lisa, if you want to come in here and add to that.
Yeah, so the stat is impressive. It's meaningful. I think it also just speaks to the universal appeal of what we're trying to accomplish here. This is not a partisan issue. It's actually the most patriotic thing you can do. To stand up and stand together and say that there aren't kings in America is not controversial. We're a democracy. People believe that. And as they've seen what it looks like to be in a nation that's tilting towards authoritarianism, they don't like it. And so what we're seeing at this No Kings is an escalation of what we saw at the prior and the prior before that. More and more people are understanding that this is unacceptable, and no matter where they live, they're choosing to protest for the first time and be together. So, these numbers are amazing, and we expect them to grow as we continue to do this.
Want to get to another question. Many observers have noted that the majority of No Kings participants are over the age of 50. How many No Kings demonstrations are happening at college campuses? And I want to give it to Sarah Parker from 5051, and then if anybody else wants to.
Yeah, as a 33-year-old leader in this movement, I take high offense to that. This is a wildly overblown statement that I'm hearing often, and I want to be clear. We have students in college campuses and universities participating in every state. At 5051, the average organizer is in their 30s. And whether you're 17 or 70 or 85, we are all sharing the same concern. We are pissed about our government. We are upset at the administration. We are upset our neighbors are being executed. We are upset we cannot afford groceries. And we are upset that we're spending billions of dollars on an illegal war. And we are pissed that ICE agents are infiltrating our community. We are trying to save our democracy. As a 33-year-old, when I said the Pledge of Allegiance, and I've said this sign multiple times, I was told about the American dream. So there are other 33-year-olds that are fighting for that American dream that was promised to us.
Anyone else want to get in on this? I want to go to another question here about ICE being present at rallies. It's a very real situation we live in our current state of affairs, that ICE has infiltrated our communities around the country. And I want to give this to Deirdre from ACLU. What has No Kings been doing to prepare for possible interactions with?
Yeah, thank you. So we have been running massive Know Your Rights trainings for folks in advance of each of these No Kings events. And we just did another one a couple days ago, which had tens of thousands of people on it, to really prepare people to feel confident both about their right to protest, which is their constitutional right to peacefully protest, and their rights when they're interacting with ICE. There is a whole series on the ACLU website about this, Know Your Rights, when interacting with ICE. And I will just say something that other speakers have said, which is deploying ICE is an intimidation tactic. That is the purpose of it. This president is trying to use ICE as his own personal enforcement force to intimidate us. We are not going to be intimidated. We are not going to be intimidated. We are going to be safe. We are going to be peaceful. We are going to be free. So yes, know your rights, and also we will not be scared off by this tactic.
Thank you so much. We're going to take one more question. Edwin, I'm going to give this to you in Spanish. This is from Thalia. ¿De qué manera están generando cambios más allá de ese único día de protestas? ¿Podrían dar algún ejemplo concreto de progreso, ya sea grande o pequeño?
No, gracias y gracias, Talia, por esa pregunta. Acá en el estado de Minnesota hemos entrenado más de 33,000 de nuestros vecinos para que sean observadores constitucionales. Hemos hecho una línea de defensa que estamos organizando cada día. Es por el trabajo que hemos hecho con docenas de organizaciones en Minnesota que no tenemos a Gregory Bovino y no tenemos a la secretaria Christine. La violencia que hemos visto en las manos de la gente de ICE ha sido mucho y hemos perdido vidas acá en Minnesota. Entonces, nosotros esta marcha el sábado es para decir que ya estamos hartos de lo que está pasando en nuestras comunidades. Y estamos organizando y estamos haciendo todo lo posible para organizar nuestra comunidad y avanzar adelante.
Thank you so much, Edwin. Thank you, everyone, for joining today's press conference with the leaders of the No Kings Coalition. If you have any questions after this press conference, please email media@nokings.org. Our team will be in touch with anything you might have questions to. Again, we anticipate Saturday being another record-breaking the single most largest nonviolent day of action in America, with over 3,200 events, with millions anticipated to be turning out across all 50 states and nearly every continent around the globe. We're in every continent but Antarctica. So with that, we're going to close out. Thank you so much.
All right, guys, that is the news here on WCNC Plus. Of course, Nick Carboni is at the Spectrum Center right now as the Hornets are playing the Nets and are up. They were up by double digits last time I checked in the third quarter. So we'll have a wrap for you on that at 11 and more news on WCNC Charlotte. We'll see you then.